Adam, is that you?
Ellen? What on earth is going on here? I heard an explosion!
I had to blast the wall of your bedroom to get out of a vault that Vanbury installed under the cemetery. I really thought I was never going to get out of there.
Get your breath back first, then tell me about it in the library. We'll be more comfortable there. What you've just told me is unbelievable. You're really something, Ellen. I was working for Vanbury for months, but I didn't have the faintest idea that there was this secret room and this vault. To tell you the truth, I would have never imagined that he was so passionate about Dracula. And I don't know why he would be so obsessed about him.
The missing portrait, the 16th painting, it's a clue related to his paranoia. He recorded a tape where he talks about an evil relic that he had to keep secret, as if it were a burden to him.
You don't think that it was a portrait of Dracula, do you?
Vanbury was afraid that the man in the portrait would come for the painting. Seeing that he has crossbows and silver stakes stored under the cemetery, it really gets you thinking. I found an old wax cylinder in the vault. Maybe it's connected to the painting.
There's a phonograph downstairs. You should be able to listen to it. Meanwhile, I'll take a look at the vault.
This is the first time I've ever heard of this painter. Are you familiar with his paintings?
No. I found out about him at the same time as you, when I saw his name on the professor's list.
I'll have to call my boss. Maybe he's come up with something on this painter. Do you think that the professor's death is connected to the story behind this portrait?
Are you suggesting that someone capsized his ship in order to get a hold of the portrait without arousing suspicion?
I know that's not very likely.
I think that the other paintings that sank were a lot more valuable.
You're right, but why does Vanbury sound so frightened in his recording? You knew Vanbury well. Judging by his behavior, do you think he had a sound mind?
Up until now, yes. But after hearing everything you've just said, I think that I actually didn't know him well at all.
November 1870. I have just come back to Budapest, exhausted, and no longer have the strength to write. I shall therefore dictate this journal to stamp in my memory the tragic events I experienced in Vladoviste. My struggle with Dracula concluded in a stalemate. The Count will certainly not come after me in Budapest, but I had to flee far from his land. If I were to return, I'd be immediately arrested as an accomplice to murder. In his Transylvanian stronghold, Dracula is untouchable. His will is law, and no one disobeys him. He does occasionally change his hunting ground, for he is hungry for new prey. That is the reason he bought a house in Budapest. Fate caused him to choose as his notary my friend Leon Hartner, then to desire his wife and take flight with her. With Jon, we set out in pursuit of the accursed couple. I quickly understood that the Count was drawing Luciana onto the path of the dragon. By an engagement present, he wanted to offer her eternity. We followed the lovers from city to city, but unfortunately, we were always one step behind. And when, at last, our long chase led us to Vladoviste, we didn't even have time to enter the Count's castle before the horror struck us. We were staying at the inn. My room communicated with Jon's. In the night, I heard Luciana's voice calling out to her husband. My friend, neither ignoring or rather refusing to accept what his wife had become, invited her up to join him. His imprudence would be fatal. Luciana would have bled her husband dry if I hadn't intervened. I battered down the door between our rooms and pierced the vampire's heart. I urged Jon to leave the inn immediately, but he remained prostrate and refused to follow me. As I had feared, my friend was arrested and indicted for the murder of his wife. I learned he died in his cell. The papers spoke of suicide, but I discern in his death the work of the Count, whose influence extends into the prisons. Prudence obliged me to return to Budapest as quickly as possible. I forced myself nonetheless to visit Luciana's grave and deal with her corpse according to the ritual. I didn't want to leave without the absolute certainty that she'd lie in eternal peace. As for her master and lover, Count Dracula, I admit that I shrunk back from him. Others will come, I hope, to resume the combat. It is for them that I preciously conserve my archives on the path of the dragon. For me, the fight is over.
I can't believe it. The note on the side of the cylinder says that the professor's grandfather made the recording. I'm starting to understand why he was so obsessed with Dracula. He was brought up in a vampire-fearing environment, and he grew up with the enormous burden of having to keep a portrait of the vampire secret. The more I discover, the more surreal this whole story becomes. But I would be immensely disappointed to leave the investigation before actually seeing the painting.
Metropolitan Director's Office, hello?
Hello, it's Ellen Cross.
Ellen, so, what's the update?
I haven't gotten a hold of the portrait, but I have made some disturbing discoveries. Vanbury was totally paranoid. He installed a vault underneath the cemetery adjacent to the manor. Inside, I found a real Vlad Tepes museum.
Living in the town of the Dracula novel ended up getting to him. Poor guy. And I found information on the painter Yanek. He was a 16th century Estambul artist. I haven't found any mention of his works. However, my assistant tells me that through the centuries the name Yanek became Yanek.
Yanek. I've jotted that down. If I find anything at all, I'll call you again. I talked about Yanek with the Metropolitan. No one's found anything conclusive.
I'm not surprised. My research hasn't come up with anything either. The only way to find the paintings is to go back on the Budapest trail.
Friedland, the suspect, is dead. The only thing they have is an encoded message written on a strip of paper. No one's been able to decipher it yet.
A strip of paper? Maybe there isn't any connection, but in my bedroom there's a scatali, an encryption device in the form of a cylinder.
Yes, I know how it works.
You should try it. You seem to be good at clearing up mysteries.
Does the path of the dragon remind you of anything?
Yes, it does. But where did you hear about it?
I heard it on the wax cylinder. It looks like the professor's grandfather recorded it.
The path of the dragon is just a legend about an initiation journey. Aspiring vampires had to follow this ritual in order to meet Dracula, the dragon. Different people have different theories about how humans become vampires. Some people say you just have to be bitten. Others say that you have to drink vampire blood.
And what do you think?
I don't think anything of it. Vampires are just a figment of the imagination.
Sometimes legends last because they're grounded in some way in reality.
The myth may have started with illnesses such as porphyria. The symptoms are similar: a pale complexion, bloodshot eyes, receding gum lines, and sun intolerance. During plague epidemics, it is also said that people were in such a hurry to bury bodies that they forgot to check if they were really dead. And when the poor guys buried alive managed to extricate themselves from their tombs, the terrified population thought they were ghosts. And then they stuck stakes into their hearts, killing them once and for all.
I've already heard these stories, but I find this recording really disturbing, and the professor really sounded terrified.
I'm surprised, Ellen. You shouldn't be taking Vanbury's flights of fancy so seriously.
You're right. I spend too much time reading. This incredible missing painting tale must be getting to me. This is the Cytel Adam told me about. Yanek Tev Kif Han S Okak 734 110 Fatih Istanbul Yanek Tevkifan Sokak 7 34 110 Fatih Istanbul. Why did Friedland, the man who was arrested in Budapest, have Yanek's address on him? And why was the address encoded? I have some news about the painter. With the Cytel, I was able to decipher the message that Friedland had on him when he was arrested. It's the address of someone named Yanek in Istanbul. My boss thinks that he might be a descendant of the painter Yanek.
Way to go, Ellen. I told you you had a talent for solving mysteries.
I'm not sure if that'll take us anywhere, but it's a start. It's Ellen again.
There must be some new developments.
Exactly. Friedland, the Budapest prisoner, had an encoded message in his belongings. I managed to decipher it. It's the address of someone named Yanek in Istanbul.
Ellen, have you ever been to Turkey?
No.
Well, here's your opportunity. Go and pay a visit to this man. If he's a descendant of the painter Yanek, he might be able to give you information on the portrait. Also, try to get more information on his connection with Friedland, but be careful.
Very well. I'm leaving for Istanbul.
Budapest, Whitby, and now Turkey. And to think that I thought that working for museums was really boring. From the time I've known you, I've had nothing but surprises.
I would have preferred to visit Istanbul under different circumstances. The man I have to meet there might have been in contact with the thief who died in Budapest.
It's a disturbing coincidence. Kaniak's descendant could thus be an accomplice in the Vanbury collection robbery.
That's possible. And if it turns out to be true, I'll have to be careful.
I would have liked to be your escort, but I have to stay here until the professor's inheritance is settled. But I would be really happy if you could keep me posted on this affair.
I will.
Take care of yourself, Ellen.
You too, Adam. Hello? Is anyone there? Mr. Yanek? Apparently there's no one here. This looks like Lilith, a painting by Jean Collier. It was part of the Vanbury collection.
Who let you in?
I work for the Metropolitan Museum of Art. I'm looking for some paintings that were stolen a few months ago. Can I take a look at your Lilith painting there? It looks like a very good reproduction.
You're pretty arrogant for someone who's burst into someone's place uninvited.
I'm looking for someone named Yanek. Is that you?
Yes, that's me.
You're the descendant of a Turkish painter, Kanayak. He did a portrait that I'm really interested in.
Really? The only paintings I have are the ones that I've painted, and I don't have any intention of continuing this conversation further. I have to go now, so do me a favor and get out of here before I lose my calm.
I bet that the painting I saw in his studio is the Jean Collier original. He was about to leave. I could take advantage of his departure to take a look at the painting. But first, I need to find a place hidden from view where I can wait until his departure. That's probably Yanek leaving his place. I hope he didn't see me come in. I need a tool to pick this lock. The mechanics of this theater are fascinating. I'll have to restore the puppet to figure out what this theater can do. This arm should do the trick. I'll just have to paint and cut it now. Perfect. Without the authentication certificate, I can't be completely sure, but I do think that it's the original. The painting is fresh, but there's something that looks like a pattern under this red layer. This looks like one of Vanbury's Bruegel paintings. Yanek disguises stolen paintings. But who does he work for? The Metropolitan stamp and the reference number of the Vanbury collection's last painting. Seeing how complex the lock system is, this chest may very well contain the portrait that absolutely terrified the professor, the one we've been after all this time. If I can only bring back one painting, it will be that one. Oh, poor man. Yanek's a lot more dangerous than I thought. Better not hang around here too much longer. I should gather some evidence so that police can take me seriously. It's empty. Yanek must have gone through his pockets before I came around. As soon as I get out of here, I'm calling the police. Yet another wrist tattoo. But it's a dragon this time. I heard some noise. That must be Yanek. I can't have him find me. I'm lucky the attic's not that high off the ground. That was a narrow escape. I'll have to tell the police and the museum about it as soon as possible.
The Metropolitan? Hello?
Hello, it's Ellen. Yanek is definitely involved in the painting theft. I've found several Vanbury collection paintings at his place.
That's great news.
There was also a corpse at his place. We have to tell the Turkish police about this as soon as possible.
No, wait a second, Ellen. Calm down. So, there was a corpse. But how did you get into Yanek's place?
You're better off not knowing.
All right. But if you broke into the scene of a crime, you might be stuck in Istanbul for as long as the investigation lasts. Do you have evidence to back you up?
Yes, I took photos and picked up a chest. I think the last painting of the collection is inside.
The portrait of Dracula? You haven't seen what's inside, and you're already as obsessed with this painting as the professor was. I hope the painting won't disappoint you. Until then, don't tell the authorities. I'll tell them as soon as you're on the plane for New York. We can't have you and this chest held up for months because of this murder tale.